going back to Volume 9, let's focus on that a little bit more. Starting with RWBY. This was the chapter that RWBY finally found her answer and found her confidence. And, you know, that is to be herself and to put herself first sometimes and you know, basically trust herself a lot more. She doesn't need to be somebody else. She can handle what's coming and what happened. She just shouldn't put too much pressure on her, because yes, there's a lot of people who go through what she goes through, and she shouldn't think that she's alone in this. I like that, but at the same time I didn't. Like, for one thing, I liked how you know, it wasn't like, okay, yes, Ruby's gonna become a completely different person, she's gonna become her mom, that is the answer. Because no, that's not the answer. For one thing, I don't want to follow a character who I just met. I would rather follow RWBY, you know, somebody who I met in Volume 1. You know, I've seen her grow, I've seen her mature. I don't want to just abandon her and find a different main character, you know? So that's, of course, good. But I would have liked it if she changed somewhat, you know? If she did have different traits to her coming out of the tree. And, you know, I feel like we could have had that core RWBY while at the same time having some noticeable changes that you know, the rest of Team RWBY would need to get used to, especially Yang. But we didn't get that. So, you know, was it good? Was it bad? I have my issues with it. It's not like issues like, oh, this is morally wrong. Just my own personal, it's not the way I would have gone. But I still will wait for Volume 10, which will hopefully be greenlit. I'm going to keep saying that. Because that's going to be the volume where we see if there are any changes. Because this could still bring changes that we just haven't seen yet. One of them being like, you know, she is more honest with herself. She's more honest to other people. I think that, you know, some decisions will make people turn their heads and be like, oh, maybe he's kind of changed a little bit. So yes, I will wait for Volume 10 to see if there are any changes. I want her to, you know, have some comedic moments. I want her to be goofy here and there. But I do want her to have changed, because, you know, after everything that's happened, I don't want the lesson. I of course want the lesson to be, you know, you don't need to be somebody else. But at the same time, I don't want it to just be, all right, so RWBY's progression was just this, and then whoop, we turn right back around. You know, I don't want it to just be that. You know, I want there to be some maturity. I want there to be some change. Because change is good. You know, you can still be yourself while at the same time being changeful. But I will have to give it to Blacksmith. Therapist Blacksmith was very, very good. I feel like, you know, I haven't been to therapy, but I think the Blacksmith carries some of the attributes of a therapist, like not trying to tell you who you need to be, but instead sort of just letting you find yourself by asking questions, you know, like, you know, they reviewed her past. They reviewed her past with her mother. It's like she talked. She explained what the tree is. She explained how, you know, RWBY can be somebody different. She explained what that means. She explained she doesn't have, like, she explained that other people have gone through things similar, but she never once went like, RWBY, this is how you should be. RWBY, look over here. This is how you should be. But instead, just sort of went like, is this how you feel? I don't know. Do you believe that's how it is? Like, really let RWBY find herself, and I like that. I think the Blacksmith is a very interesting character, and it's funny because when the trailer came out, like, I was like, she's evil, she's bad, and then after that the opening came out and I was like, maybe she's not bad, but she's a tool for whoever is bad. And then now I'm just like, no, the Blacksmith is a force of nature in a way, just guiding people to where they want to be and who they believe they should be and things like that. So yeah, I mean, the Blacksmith was very, very impressive, and I liked the conversation that those two had. And then, of course, we have RWBY finding herself, that entrance, that return, so powerful, so great. The visuals were just amazing. The colors, RWBY chasing after her crescent rose, both of them glowing red. I love that. It was dramatic when she exploded out of the statue. We had that flash of light, and then we have RWBY with the light behind her, and like it was like that simple visuals that just looked so good. Bringing back, bringing back memories of the Red trailer from 2013. Really great. The red like roses in the background, the iconic iconic start of the Red Like Roses, followed by part 3, the new version, which was sung beautifully by Casey Williams. Just really good. The OST was amazing. Like I said, dramatic, colorful. It was just really good. I was so impressed with that dramatic entrance, and I love that so much. And then that was followed by the fight scenes. The fight scenes throughout the whole episode, really good. I love the Curious Cat's final form. It's sort of like the big bad wolf, but instead like the big bad cat. And I think that was a really good villain for RWBY especially. And even though they were big and bulky, they didn't feel slow. Like, they still had that like fast pace that RWBY is used to. Like, I like that a lot. I loved how everyone was fighting. Nobody was standing still. If anybody was out of the fight, it was either because they were waiting or like they were knocked out. They were out for the count. But nobody felt like, I never once went like, what's going on? Why isn't Yang jumping in? Why isn't Blake jumping in? If they weren't jumping in, it's because like when RWBY was like by herself doing the 1v1, there wasn't really a place for them to jump in, so they were letting RWBY like start it off, and then after that push the Curious Cat to the center, so everybody was surrounding them. That was great. I like that. There was not once I was just like, where is everybody? What's going on? Let's help out. At the time, RWBY didn't need help. She was doing her thing. It was great. John's strategy with the leaves, I thought was really good. It was great to see strategy again. Also, like the quick thinking, I love that. The team attacks, honestly, throughout this whole volume, the team attacks have been really good. Chapter 3, Chapter 7, I believe, or Chapter 8. There was a little bit of that in Chapter 5, I'm pretty sure. Like, throughout the whole volume, we've been having some ranging from little to big team attacks. And I think they're just really creative. RWBY style team attacks are RWBY's bread and butter, so it was great to see that. The visuals, of course, it was clear, it was beautiful, I loved it. RWBY's 1v1, I mentioned it real quick, I thought that was also really good. I've been waiting for a RWBY scythe fight, a clear, good, lengthy scythe fight, and yeah, it wasn't like 3 minutes long, but it was a good length, I think, and it really showed RWBY doing her thing. I thought that was really good. The smirk RWBY had before she fired, beautiful. Really, it reminded me of Red Like Roses when she had that like scythe around one of the Grimm's neck and then smirked before. Really good. And then after that, we had that unison scream. It's so small and it's very short. But when after the light show that we got, which by the way, really good. We had that all 4 of them in unison, and I'm just like, yes. This is a team. Look at these 4. So good. And I'm imagining the voice actresses as well, unison screaming too. That was it makes me think back we've come so far, and this team is so iconic at this point. It's just all of them screaming together. It was great. It like I said, it's very small, but it was just things like that just make me go I love this show. I love this team. It's really great. And after we got that big finish, once again, the light show, very creative, really great. I think we don't really get a lot of big finishes, I feel like, with RWBY. It's either the fight just sizzles out or comes to an abrupt stop. But moments like Volume 7 where, we had Tyrion's big finish where he stabbed Clover, and it was that big artistic shot. And then after that, we had the whole thing with Yang and Blake when they both crossed, when they defeated one of the Aesops. And then after that, this volume where we had a lot of big finishes, with Yang and that giant sword, and Yang once again with the Jabberwock, with that big finish, big stomach punch in Chapter 4, Chapter 5. And then after that, here where we have everybody, all the girls turning into a light show, and then ending with all of them in their respective colors punching down on the Curious Cat and then sending them flying into the ground. That is just so good. It's been a while, I feel since we've had something like that. I love it when RWBY takes a second to just be fancy and dramatic and over the top just to make the characters look good. I love that stuff, and I'm glad that they're doing more of that stuff in the show. I hope they continue to do that, because it's one of the good things about RWBY. Just the showboating, I think, is really good. But yeah, the fight is over, and the Curious Cat, they say their last words. And something that really kind of stuck with me is Blake. When the Curious Cat is you guys are confused, you humans are confused. broken and things like that. Blake goes like Blake, Yang, and Weiss are like, no, not that's not who Ruby is. She's great. That's why we follow her and stuff like that. And I'm like, I feel like that kind of goes against everything that we were talking about. Like, yes, we saw her. She was broken. She was confused. But then she fixed herself with like the help of the blacksmith, and the protection of her friends. Like, they were protecting her while she was going through that counseling. Like, yeah, she gets confused, she gets broken, but the people around her, and of course herself as well, they all of that puts her back together. And I feel like the show kind of forgot about that. Like, I wish that instead of saying like, oh, don't worry, that's not who Ruby is, but instead they said, if that ever something along the lines of, if that ever happened, we would be there to help pick her back up, just like she would do for us. Like, I feel like that line would have been a lot better, because it's like, okay, now you're kind of putting Ruby on that pedestal again. It's like, yeah, no, she does get broken, she does hurt, she does get lost, just like anybody else. I feel like the show kind of forgot that. So I don't know how I feel about that part of the episode. I kind of wish that they instead, like, leaned on what happened throughout this whole volume, where Ruby was lost and then she had to find herself with the help of the people around her. Like, come on, it was right there. I feel like they kind of forgot that.